All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the quiet, honestly almost invisible origins of the single most powerful business empire America has ever seen. We're talking about John Davison Rockefeller, but definitely not the way you usually hear his story.
You see, we usually start with those massive historical aliases that completely define his legacy. Take his most famous title, for instance, the Oil King. It's this picture of absolute, total industry dominance that history remembers so vividly.
But then again, he was also known as the Robber Baron. Millions of people would eventually view him through this much darker, highly controversial lens, right? Just a ruthless figure taking literally whatever he wanted from the world.
And then, of course, there's the ultimate label, the richest man in modern history. But listen, before all this immense wealth, before the unprecedented power and the vast empire, we really have to strip away the myth and just look at the boy. How did this actual person come to be?
Let's set the scene. It's a quiet, misty morning, July 8th, 1839, at a small wooden farmhouse hidden away in the trees in Richford, New York. History started right here, without any crowds or grand celebrations. There was absolutely zero sign that the child born inside this unassuming little house would one day control the modern economy. He was just a boy, growing up in a home where every single day felt like a profound lesson in survival.
And his early worldview, well, it was completely fractured between two extremes. On one hand, you had his mother, Eliza, who believed life was built entirely on discipline, patience, and faith. But on the other hand, his father, William, believed something entirely different. William was charming when strangers were watching, sure, but at home, he was totally unpredictable. He'd disappear for weeks without any warning, and then just suddenly return with expensive clothes, strange stories, and pockets absolutely full of cash that nobody could explain. Young John very quickly realized a hard truth. His dad never played fair.
In fact, one evening, William looked right at his son, smiled, and delivered this incredibly harsh truth. Never expect the world to hand you anything. The world belongs to those who know how to take it. Wow. That planted a massive seed in John's mind. Those words settled deep inside him, ultimately shaping a philosophy that millions would later accuse him of living by to the absolute letter.
Now, faced with all this chaos at home, you might think John would spiral. But he didn't. Instead, he turned to numbers. Why? Well, because numbers never lied, unlike people. For John, money became so much more than just paper or metal coins. It became certainty. It became a perfectly reliable anchor in a deeply unpredictable world.
Whenever he earned a few coins doing odd jobs for the neighbors, he flat out refused to spend them. Instead, he meticulously tracked every single amount in a small notebook, just to create some order in his life. Every penny, every expense, every profit, he cataloged the whole shebang. This wasn't just some early bookkeeping hobby. It was a coping mechanism that evolved into a literal superpower.
Think about it. While other teenagers were dreaming of adventure or wasting their money on entertainment, John was dreaming about balance sheets. He studied columns, records, and calculations. He held this deep, unshakable belief that if every dollar had a purpose, a life could have direction. And that intense discipline really paid off. By the time he was just 16 years old, he had already landed a job as an assistant bookkeeper.
Working crazy long hours for incredibly small pay in that new office, he finally saw how businesses truly functioned from the inside, and it was a total revelation for him. He realized that every single invoice told a story, every shipment revealed a hidden opportunity, and every ledger plainly showed the stark difference between success and failure. He was basically learning the DNA of commerce.
And it didn't take long for his employers to notice something highly unusual about him. John almost never made mistakes. He checked every single figure twice, and sometimes even 3 times. Some people call this habit of never making errors a borderline obsession. But John, he just viewed his intense calculations and record-keeping as his fundamental responsibility.
Meanwhile, outside the quiet walls of his office, the American economy was absolutely exploding. We're talking factories multiplying, railroads stretching further across the country every single year, and entire new industries being born almost overnight. Men were frantically chasing land and gold. But John quietly watched all of it. He wasn't interested in quick riches. No, he wanted something much stronger, a permanent system that could survive anything.
And then came the chaotic discovery that changed America forever. Black liquid burst from the ground in Pennsylvania.
Almost instantly, massive crowds of investors rushed toward this brand new industry. Speculators were becoming millionaires overnight. Vast fortunes were appearing and disappearing within mere weeks.
But this is exactly where Rockefeller separated himself from the pack. You see, where most people saw an exciting gold rush they could gamble on, Rockefeller saw horrifying inefficiency. Where everyone else saw excitement and quick riches, he just saw mathematics and the urgent need for a system. Honestly, the wild gambling offended his strict, deeply ingrained sense of order.
I mean, think about the absolute chaos of the early oil boom that John was meticulously studying. Every refinery operated differently. Prices fluctuated wildly every single day. Transportation costs were completely destroying profits. Waste was literally everywhere. It was just a completely disorganized mess.
Which leads us to a truly pivotal moment. Instead of asking how much oil could be produced, which is what literally everyone else was asking, he asked a completely different question. How much money is being lost? This marked a total paradigm shift for his business strategy. He wasn't even looking at the product itself. He was looking at the massive leaks in the system.
He realized a fundamental truth of business. Total chaos always creates the perfect opportunity. Specifically, it was an opportunity for someone who actually knew how to apply strict mathematics and ruthless organization to an unstructured industry. It's a timeless business lesson, really. The wilder the market, the more it desperately needs a system.
There's this image of him one evening, standing silently beside rows of smoking refineries, just looking at the fierce competition. While other workers believed the business could never become organized because the infighting was just too intense, John totally disagreed. He became absolutely obsessed with one profound thought. If everyone is fighting each other, then nobody is building something permanent.
He didn't want to be just another speculator drilling for oil, crossing his fingers, and hoping to get lucky. His vision was entirely different. He wanted to control the very infrastructure that the whole chaotic industry needed to survive. So, he made a decision. He was going to build the one refinery that everyone else depended on. And just like that, the bedrock foundation of a massive empire had been laid right in his mind. We're going to end our explainer today with this final provocative question. How would one man's obsession with order, an obsession born from a deeply unpredictable childhood, ultimately control the modern world? It's an incredible thought to take away, isn't it? A young boy seeking certainty in a small notebook grows up to build a monopoly that forever changes human